I would like to acknowledge among us Comrade Luvoyo Geke from the South African Embassy.
I am the generation that benefited from the struggles of the 76 generation. In fact, I was young during 76, but I remember it. Their struggle was a struggle for all of us. For example, the generation I belong to, we did not have to learn in Afrikaans as a result of their struggle. But my view is also that their struggle was part, I think it's been reflected already, was part of a wider struggle.
Deux ou trois choses à retenir vraiment de cet épisode sud-africain. Le premier, c'est que la raison de la grève étudiante est qu'on veut imposer l'Afrikaans, qui est la langue des bourgs, comme langue d'enseignement. Les Sud-Africains étudiants refusent ce système qui vient conforter la politique de Bantustan, mais aussi la politique de développement séparée sous l'égide de l'apartheid. Ils préfèrent l'anglais, pas parce qu'ils aiment l'anglais, mais en fait une façon de refuser l'Afrikaans. Et c'est principalement le mouvement de la conscience noire de Steve Biko qui enclenche le processus au niveau de la jeunesse. Donc c'est un mouvement de boycott qui va faire très vite tache d'huile, comme ça a été expliqué. Mais ce qu'il faut surtout retenir, c'est que quelques mois plus tard, Steve Biko sera arrêté, torturé, assassiné. Donc c'est aussi un autre chapitre très très important de la brutalité policière du système d'apartheid. Mais c'est vraiment très important de savoir que sans ce mouvement, il est probable que la lutte contre l'apartheid ne sera pas internationalement connue, parce que ça a été un massacre de ces jeunes. Et c'est pour ça que depuis cette date, aujourd'hui c'est la journée de l'enfant africain et c'est célébré et commémoré. Alors l'importance de ces mouvements-là, comme l'a montré Arnaud il y a quelques semaines à partir de la révolte de mai 68, qui a été un moment important dans la rupture en Occident du réveil d'une jeunesse qui comptait le capitalisme, c'est un peu aussi le fruit de ces moments-là qui va arriver. Donc il va y avoir une succession de révoltes sur le continent africain, mais aussi ailleurs. Dans un pays qui a été fracturé et coupé en deux, qui était le plus grand d'Afrique, le Soudan, il y a eu des mouvements extrêmement organisés dès le début de l'indépendance. Des mouvements de nature socialisante, syndicaux. Et ils ont été évidemment perturbés. Et le Soudan est un des rares pays, depuis la période de la colonisation britannique, qui n'a pas pu être complètement divisé par l'impérialisme, qui a fini par réussir à le diviser et fractionner à cause de ses richesses le Soudan du Nord, le Soudan du Sud. La jeunesse soudanaise est prise avec une élite militaire extrêmement brutale, mais qui a une grande conscience politique. Et il y a eu des tentatives de révolte qui sont d'ailleurs continues dans une guerre civile qui est actuellement à l'origine. Et vraiment, c'est important de comprendre un peu cette dynamique générale d'une sorte de mouvement d'ensemble du continent africain, de la révolte de ces jeunesses, avec l'expression qui s'est passée dans les pays du Sahel, avec ce qui s'est passé dans le Maghreb, en Tunisie, en Égypte. Mais l'expérience soudanaise est tout à fait importante à comprendre et nous avons le plaisir d'avoir Doua Mélan pour nous en parler. Merci.
Similar dynamic like Soweto, in which it was actually school children who started the 2018 revolution because they could no longer afford to buy lunch or breakfast in school. And so it was them and their mothers that went out in smaller towns outside of the capital city, and then this sort of triggered this huge protest. Afterwards, big wave of protest. There was a 58-day sit-in in front of the military headquarters in Khartoum. The Bashir stepped down from power in April 2019. The sit-in continued because the demands of the young people and the demands of the people wasn't just for the Bashir regime to go, but to actually have a democratic transition in the country, to actually be able to address all of the different struggles that we've seen. And we've also seen during this uprising that young people were also bringing back conversations around racial hierarchies in Sudan, conversations around gender-based violence, conversations around all these things that have plagued our communities, but also being able to connect our struggle with Pan-Africanism in general. And so this is unfortunately one of the sad realities with the revolution, is that there were so many different factions, and not all the factions had the same spirit or the same interest in the revolution, right? So you had young people that were organized through something called the neighborhood resistance committees. They were the ones really who were on the ground, moving people, supporting their communities, getting people out, doing a lot of the education, the revolutionary education around what the demands are for the revolution. And then you had sort of like more organized groups like the Sudanese Professionals Association. But again, the actual revolutionary groups like the resistance committees were completely sidelined. In all of this, they were seen as too radical, as not realistic for the moment that we're in. And unfortunately, a lot of the Western countries amplified that narrative as well. And of course, we know what happened. They dissolved the agreement that they had with the civilians, arrested the prime minister, and just carried on to rule by themselves. They also, the sit-in that I talked about, the 58-day sit-in, was brutally dismantled. And then in 2023, both the RSF and the military, who were together in this coup, obviously fought against each other. On top of that, a lot of the resistance committees actually had to become humanitarian responders. So some of them have changed into emergency response rooms that are now doing all this frontline humanitarian work because of the extreme abandonment that Sudan has faced from the humanitarian aid world, which was problematic to begin with, but they actually all left within the first month of the war, right? And so this work of keeping people alive became reliant on people in the neighborhood and the resistance committees, the emergency response rooms. And so there's also that element that is now, I think, causing a lot of difficulties in terms of being able to do political organizing, because a lot of the people have to become humanitarian workers now to keep their communities alive. And so it's really hard at this moment to even be able to think about what Sudan is going to look like in the next period. But I will say that that the resistance is very much still alive. It just looks different right now in this moment, but it is still very much alive, and Sudanese people have truly been the only ones showing up for themselves this entire time. I think I'll leave it at that. Way more than 15 minutes.
Each new wave brings about the possibility of the next wave. That's the task. The task is to organize, to offer alternatives, constantly work at it. And I think that's the important thing to be done. And if we fall for the fact that our South Africans xenophobic, then we fall for the same nationalist problem. It is the nature of the economy and the structure of that economy that's playing itself out, and the model is problematic. We know that, and we need to tackle it.